The moment those two men stepped out of that fake patrol car and told him to put his hands where they could see them, they believed this was going to be over in seconds. Just another situation where they show authority and the other person complies. But what they didn't realize was that they had just walked straight into a situation they had absolutely no control over. And the man they were trying to intimidate was already reading everything about them in silence. He didn't panic, didn't argue, didn't even look confused. He just watched them carefully. The kind of calm that doesn't come from being relaxed, but from knowing exactly what is happening and exactly how it is going to end. Before I take you deeper into this, if you enjoy stories like this, make sure you like the video and subscribe to Karen's Stories Daily. Because this one builds slowly, and when it flips hard in a way you will not expect. This all started a few weeks earlier, when he first moved into that neighborhood. It was the kind of place where everything looked perfect on the outside: clean streets, organized houses, people who followed routines and expected others to do the same. In places like that, anyone who doesn't immediately blend in becomes noticeable. He wasn't loud, he wasn't unfriendly, he just kept to himself. He came and went quietly, didn't spend time socializing, didn't explain himself to anyone. And that alone was enough to make certain people uncomfortable. At first it was just curiosity. People noticed his schedule was different. Sometimes he would leave very early before sunrise, sometimes late at night. Sometimes he would be gone for hours, sometimes for days. Deliveries would show up that didn't look typical, and he handled everything quickly without drawing attention. To most people, that would just mean someone with a demanding job or a private lifestyle. But in that neighborhood, curiosity slowly turned into suspicion. One neighbor in particular started paying closer attention than anyone should. She began tracking small details: when his car left, when it returned, how long lights stayed on, who came near the house. Instead of asking a simple question, she started building a story in her head. The more she thought about it, the more convinced she became that something was wrong. She took those concerns to the HOA board. At first they didn't take it seriously because there was no real evidence. Nothing that actually proved anything was wrong. But the more she repeated her concerns, the more others started to think maybe there was something unusual. That is how these situations grow, not from facts, but from repetition. Instead of handling it properly, she decided to take control in her own way. She mentioned that she knew people who could check things out quietly, without involving official authorities, to some of the board members. That sounded like an easy solution. They didn't want attention. They didn't want official reports. They just wanted answers. What they didn't realize was that the people she contacted were not real law enforcement. They were the kind of people who pretend to have authority, who rely on appearance and confidence to make others believe they have power. That decision changed everything. The day those men arrived looked completely normal at first. The neighborhood was quiet, no signs of anything unusual. Then that vehicle pulled in, dark-colored, lights mounted on top, markings that looked official from a distance. To most people, it would have looked real enough. They parked directly in front of his house, stepped out slowly, and walked toward him with confidence. He was outside at the time, working near his driveway, when he saw them approach. He didn't react immediately. He paused for a second, just enough to observe. That pause was important because in that moment, he noticed the details. The way they walked, the way they held themselves, the way they looked around. Something didn't match. Real officers move differently. They communicate differently. They carry authority without forcing it. These two were trying too hard. They told him to step away and put his hands where they could see them. Their tone was sharp and demanding, like they expected instant compliance without question. He didn't argue, but he didn't rush either. He looked at them calmly and asked them to identify themselves properly. That one question created tension immediately, because instead of responding clearly, they avoided it. One of them repeated the command louder, trying to push control instead of answering. That confirmed it for him. They were not legitimate, but he stayed calm. He stepped back slowly, keeping everything controlled, not giving them a reason to escalate, but also not giving them control over him. They took that as compliance and moved closer. That is when the situation became more serious, because now they were close enough to try something physical. One of them reached forward to grab his arm. And that is the exact moment everything shifted. He stopped the movement instantly, not aggressively, but with complete control. The kind of control that comes from experience, not guesswork. Both of them froze for a second, because they felt it. The difference between someone who is unsure and someone who knows exactly what they are doing. He looked directly at them and told them to step back. His voice was calm but firm. There was no panic in it. No hesitation. And that made them hesitate. but only for a second, because they still believed they were in charge. So they pushed again, and that is when he decided to end the confusion. He slowly reached and showed them his badge. Not dramatically, not like a scene. Just enough for them to see it clearly. The reaction was instant. Everything about them changed. The confidence disappeared. Their postures shifted. Their expressions tightened. Because now they understood something very important. They had made a serious mistake. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The situation just paused. Then he asked them a simple question. Who sent you here? They didn't answer immediately. And that hesitation said everything. Because real officers don't hesitate when asked that question. They answer clearly, immediately. But these two couldn't, because there was no real authority behind them. Just assumptions and a bad decision. He watched them carefully, giving them a chance to explain. But the longer they stayed silent, the clearer it became. The situation was about to escalate in a way they were not prepared for. He stepped back, pulled out his phone, and made a call. Calm, direct, and controlled. No urgency in his voice. Just precision. And in that moment, everything shifted completely. Because now real authority was about to enter the situation. And once that happened, every single detail they tried to fake was going to be exposed. The neighborhood that once watched quietly was now starting to notice what was happening. People were stepping outside, looking toward the scene, trying to understand why there was tension in a place that was always calm. And the woman who started all of this was watching too. At first she looked confident. Like everything was going according to plan. But slowly, that confidence started to fade, because something didn't look right anymore. The situation wasn't moving the way she expected. And deep down, she was starting to realize that this was not going to end the way she imagined. The moment real police vehicles pulled into the neighborhood, everything changed in a way those two fake officers were not ready for. The confidence they walked in with was completely gone by the time actual officers stepped out and approached the scene. The man who had been calm the entire time didn't move much. He just stepped slightly to the side and let the situation unfold exactly the way it was supposed to. When the real officers asked for identification, those two men struggled to respond properly. Their answers didn't match. Their tone changed. And within minutes it became clear to everyone watching that they were not who they claimed to be. The tension that had built up suddenly flipped, and now they were the ones being questioned, the ones being controlled, the ones trying to explain something they couldn't justify. The woman who had started all of this was standing at a distance watching everything fall apart in real time. At first she tried to step in and explain, but the moment questions were directed toward her, her confidence disappeared as well. She realized too late that involving people without real authority had created a much bigger problem than the one she imagined. The officers handled everything professionally, separating everyone, confirming identities, and documenting what had happened. The truth came out clearly. There was no official report against him, no legal reason for any action, and no authority behind the men who showed up. By the time it was over, those fake officers were taken away, and the situation that was supposed to expose someone else had exposed the people who created it instead. The neighborhood that once made quiet assumptions became completely silent, and the man at the center of it all went back to his routine like nothing had happened. But now everyone understood something they didn't before, that acting on assumptions without facts can turn a small situation into a serious mistake. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know if you think they deserved what happened. And share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you stay subscribed to Karen's Stories Daily.